One summer evening, during a violent thunderstorm, a mother was tucking her small boy into bed. She was about to turn off the light when he asked with a tremor in his voice, "Mommy, will you sleep with me tonight?" The mother smiled and gave him a reassuring hug. "I can't, dear," she said. "I have to sleep in Daddy's room." A long silence was broken at last by his shaky little voice. "The big sissy." I'm Don Jackson, listening to the heartbeat of the storm. This observation is so true. The sturdiest tree is not found in the shelter of the forest, but high upon some rocky crag where its daily battle with the elements shapes it into a thing of beauty. Which reminds me of one of Aesop's fables called The Tree and the Reed. "Well, little one," said a tree to a reed that was growing at its foot, "why do you not plant your feet firmly in the ground and raise your head boldly in the air as I do?" "I am contented with my lot," said the reed. "I may not be so grand, but I think I am safer." "Safe?" sneered the tree. "Who shall pluck me up by the roots or bow my head to the ground?" But it soon had to repent of its boasting. For a hurricane arose which tore it up from its roots and cast it a useless log on the ground, while the little reed, bending to the force of the wind, soon stood upright again when the storm had passed over. There was always a moral to accompany Aesop's fables. Obscurity often brings safety. Japanese proverb states, "The bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists." I've always liked the message behind this writing. A young man applied for a job as a farmhand. When the farmer asked for his qualifications, he said, "I can sleep when the wind blows." This puzzled the farmer, but he liked the young man and hired him. A few days later, the farmer and his wife were awakened in the night by a violent storm. They quickly began to check things out to see if all was secure. They found that the shutters of the farmhouse had been securely fastened. A good supply of logs had been set next to the fireplace. The young man slept soundly. They found that the farm tools had been placed in the storage shed, safe from the elements. The tractor had been moved into the garage. The bar was properly locked. Even the animals were calm. All was well. The farmer then understood the meaning of the young man's words, "I can sleep when the wind blows." Because the farmhand did his work loyally and faithfully when the skies were clear, he was prepared for the storm when it broke. So when the wind blew, he was not afraid. He could sleep in peace. I was always fascinated by this writing. Did you know that an eagle knows when a storm is approaching long before it breaks? The eagle will fly to some high spot and wait for the winds to come. When the storm hits, it sets its wings so that the wind will pick it up and lift it above the storm. While the storm rages below, the eagle is soaring above it. The eagle does not escape the storm. It simply uses the storm to lift it higher. It rises on the winds that bring the storm. When the storms of life come upon us, and all of us will experience them, we can rise above them. The storms do not have to overcome us. We can soar above the storm. This writer presented a very powerful image, and I quote, "I think Charles Allen said it first. When faced with problems which threaten to steal your peace of mind, learn the meaning of the word imperturbability." I heard of two artists who were asked to illustrate peace. Each was assigned the task of depicting a peaceful scene on canvas. The first artist drew a beautiful picture of a countryside on a warm spring day. A soft sun illumines green grass. A picturesque farmhouse and grazing cattle are bathed in its warmth. A farmer walks contentedly behind strong plow horses, making his field ready for spring planting. The picture is one of beauty and quiet tranquility. The other artist took a different approach. He drew a majestic, rugged cliff. Gnarled trees, twisted by years of violent winds, jut from the craggy mountainside. Dark clouds hang low and fierce, while jagged streaks of lightning slash across an angry sky. The picture is one of violence, chaos, and rage. But as one looks closely, something else becomes visible. There, in one of the crevices of the Rocky Mountain, tucked back just out of reach of the wind and rain, a nest with two small birds. Apparently unconcerned about the impending storm, they appear calm, cozy, and peaceful as they patiently wait for the turbulence to pass. And isn't that the way it so often is? We may want to be surrounded by peace, but storms rage. Problems and pressures without threaten to steal peace of mind within. The answer is imperturbability. Inner peace which doesn't leave when circumstances change. It's a peace which is greater than the problems of life, built on assurance that the tempest will finally pass. We will survive the storm. We may grow stronger because of it, and in the meantime, we will not endure it alone. Imperturbability. It's the result of a peace which passes understanding. For serenity is not freedom from the storm, but peace amid the storm. I'm Don Jackson. Margie DeMerrill wrote, "There will be storms, child. There will be storms. And with each tempest, you will seem to stand alone against cruel winds. But with time, the rage and fury shall subside. And when the sky clears, you will find yourself clinging to someone you would have never known but for storms." This is a true story, and I quote, "A cold March wind danced around the dead of night in Dallas. A doctor walked into the small hospital room of Diana Blessing. Still groggy from surgery, her husband David held her hand as they braced themselves for the latest news. That afternoon, March 10th, 1991, Diana, only 24 weeks pregnant, had to undergo an emergency cesarean to deliver the couple's new daughter, Danae Lou Blessing. At 12 inches long and weighing only 1 pound and 9 ounces, they already knew she was perilously premature. Still, the doctor's soft words dropped like bombs. "I don't think she's going to make it," he said, as kindly as he could. "There's only a 10% chance she will live through the night, and even then, if by some slim chance she does make it, her future could be a very cruel one." Numb with disbelief, David and Diana listened as the doctor described the devastating problems Danae would likely face if she survived. She would never walk. She would never talk. She would probably be blind. and she would certainly be prone to other catastrophic conditions, and on and on. No, no, was all Diana could say. She and David, with their 5-year-old son Dustin, had long dreamed of the day they would have a daughter to become a family of 4. Now, within hours, that dream was slipping away. Through the dark hours of morning, as Danae held on to life by the thinnest thread, Diana slipped in and out of sleep, growing more and more determined that their tiny daughter would live, and live to be a healthy, happy young girl. But David, fully awake and listening to additional dire details of their daughter's chances of ever leaving the hospital alive, much less healthy, knew he must confront his wife with the inevitable. David walked in and said that we needed to talk about making funeral arrangements, Diana remembers. I felt so bad for him because he was doing everything, trying to include me in what was going on, but I just wouldn't listen. I couldn't listen. I said, no, that is not going to happen. No way. I don't care what the doctors say. Danae is not going to die. One day she will be just fine, and she will be coming home with us. As if willed to live by Diana's determination, Danae clung to life, hour after hour, with the help of every medical machine and marvel her miniature body could endure. But as those first days passed, a new agony set in for David and Diana. Because Danae's underdeveloped nervous system was essentially raw, the lightest kiss or caress only intensified her discomfort. So they couldn't even cradle their tiny baby girl against their chests to offer the strength of their love. All they could do, as Danae struggled alone beneath the ultraviolet light in the tangle of tubes and wires, was to pray that God would stay close to their precious little girl. But that's not the end of this true story. A most amazing conclusion next. And now, the powerful conclusion to The Smell of Rain. And again I quote, "There was never a moment when Danae suddenly grew stronger, but as the weeks went by, she did slowly gain an ounce of weight here and an ounce of strength there. At last, when Danae turned 2 months, her parents were able to hold her in their arms for the very first time. And 2 months later, though doctors continued to gently but grimly warn that her chances of surviving, much less living any kind of normal life, were next to zero, Danae went home from the hospital just as her mother had predicted. Today, 5 years later, at the time of this writing, Danae is a petite but feisty young girl with glittering gray eyes and an unquenchable zest for life. She shows no signs whatsoever of any mental or physical impairment. Simply, she is everything a little girl can be, and more. But that happy ending is far from the end of her story. One blistering afternoon in the summer of 1996, near her home in Irving, Texas, Danae was sitting in her mother's lap in the bleachers of a local ballpark where her brother Dustin's baseball team was practicing. As always, Danae was chattering nonstop with her mother and several other adults sitting nearby when she suddenly fell silent. Hugging her arms across her chest, Danae asked, "Do you smell that?" Smelling the air and detecting the approach of a thunderstorm, Diana replied, "Yes, it smells like rain." Danae closed her eyes and again asked, "Do you smell that?" Once again, her mother replied, "Yes, I think we're about to get wet. It smells like rain." Still caught in the moment, Danae shook her head, patted her thin shoulders with her small hands, and loudly announced, "No, it smells like him. It smells like God when you lay your head on his chest." Tears blurred Diana's eyes as Danae then happily hopped down to play with the other children. Before the rains came, Her daughter's words confirmed what Diana and all the members of the extended Blessing family had known, at least in their hearts, all along. During those long days and nights of her first 2 months of life, when her nerves were too sensitive for them to touch her, God was holding Danae on his chest, and it is his loving scent that she remembers so well. End quote. Another one of those great mysteries of life. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.